17 seconds ago, in a packed Senate Judiciary Committee hearing room, FBI Director Kash Patel did something that will haunt his career forever. When Senator Cory Booker asked him about 73 missing Epstein investigation files, Patel's mouth opened, closed, and then he sat in absolute silence for 28 seconds of the most damaging testimony ever captured on C-SPAN. The silence wasn't defiance. It wasn't strategy. It was the complete breakdown of a man who had just been caught in the biggest cover-up in FBI history. Let me take you back to how we got here, because what happened this morning will change everything you thought you knew about the Epstein investigation and who has been protecting whom in Washington. Senate Judiciary Committee, Room 226, Hart Building, 10:15 a.m. The hearing was supposed to be routine FBI oversight. Senators asking prepared questions about budget allocations, while FBI directors provide carefully scripted responses designed to reveal nothing while appearing cooperative. Kash Patel arrived at 9:47 a.m., flanked by 3 FBI attorneys whose briefcases contained pre-approved answers. He looked confident, wearing his standard dark suit and that controlled authority expression perfected during years of congressional testimony. The first 90 minutes proceeded as planned. Republican senators praised his leadership, cited arrest statistics, offered softball questions that allowed Patel to deliver sound bites perfect for conservative media. Democratic senators tried to land punches on controversial topics: sudden reassignment of agents, firing of FBI officials, denial of security clearances for agents who had criticized the previous administration. But Patel deflected each challenge, citing ongoing investigations, invoking privacy protections, claiming decisions were based on operational efficiency. At 10:14 a.m., Chairman Dick Durbin recognized Senator Cory Booker. The room's energy shifted because everyone understood that Booker, a former mayor and accomplished attorney, didn't ask questions unless he possessed devastating answers. Booker sat quietly, studying a thick manila folder positioned in front of him. The folder was unmarked except for a red classification sticker. Patel noticed it immediately, his eyes tracking to the folder before returning to Booker's face. "Director Patel," Booker began, his voice carrying prosecutorial precision that made veteran Washington observers lean forward. "I want to discuss the FBI's document preservation practices, specifically regarding high-profile criminal investigations." Patel's posture remained confident, but observers could detect concern that flashed across his features. His left hand moved toward the table edge, a self-soothing gesture indicating stress. "Of course, Senator," Patel responded smoothly. "The FBI maintains the most comprehensive document preservation protocols in federal law enforcement. We have multiple redundant systems to ensure the integrity of our investigative materials." "Excellent," Booker said, and there was something in that single word, a tone of satisfaction, that made everyone in that chamber understand Patel had just walked directly into a carefully constructed trap. "So you would agree that the FBI has systems in place to prevent the unauthorized loss or destruction of criminal investigation files?" Patel nodded confidently, still projecting authority he would lose in 45 seconds. "Absolutely, Senator. We have strict protocols, digital backups, comprehensive audit trails. It would be virtually impossible for investigative materials to disappear without proper authorization." "Virtually impossible," Booker repeated slowly, savoring each syllable. "And if such files did go missing, there would be clear records showing what happened to them and who was responsible?" "Correct," Patel confirmed, his voice steady, but his right hand gripping the table tighter. "Every action requires digital authentication, and those logs are preserved indefinitely." Booker opened his manila folder with theatrical precision. "Director Patel, are you familiar with FBI Evidence Management Report number EM 2025-1847, dated January 15, 2025? Patel's confident expression flickered, his eyebrows drawing together. "Senator, without reviewing the specific document, I cannot comment on individual internal reports." "Let me refresh your memory," Booker interrupted, holding up a document bearing official FBI letterhead with classification markings visible to every camera. This is an internal memorandum from FBI Evidence Management Division Chief Rebecca Martinez to you personally. Subject line, Critical Evidence Loss Incident Requiring Director Review. The committee room went silent, not the polite quiet of people waiting, but the heavy silence of people who had just heard something that would dominate news cycles for weeks. Booker began reading, his voice clear and precise, ensuring every word reached the press gallery and the millions watching live coverage. Quote, Director Patel, I am writing to inform you of an unprecedented evidence management failure that occurred during the final week of December 2024. 73 case files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation have been reported missing from FBI evidence storage facilities. These files contained witness testimony, financial records, flight logs, and photographic evidence that were central to ongoing investigations into Epstein associates. The impact was immediate and devastating. Patel's face drained of color so dramatically that even reporters in the back gallery could see the change. His confident posture collapsed as his shoulders tensed, his breathing became visibly rapid, and his hands began to tremble slightly. The missing files, Booker continued, include testimony from 14 witnesses who identified high-profile individuals involved in Epstein's operation, financial transaction records linking prominent figures to suspicious payments, and communication intercepts that were deemed critical to potential prosecutions. Director Patel, these 73 files represent the core evidence needed to hold Epstein associates accountable, and they have simply vanished from FBI custody. Booker set the document down and looked directly at Patel, his voice carrying barely contained fury. Director, how do 73 critical evidence files from the most high-profile criminal investigation in recent history just disappear from FBI storage? This was the moment. Patel's mouth opened as if to respond, but no words emerged. His eyes darted to his attorneys, looking for guidance that wasn't coming. The lead attorney, a gray-haired woman in her 50s, remained motionless, her face carefully neutral but her knuckles white where she gripped her pen. 28 seconds of complete silence followed. In congressional hearings, 28 seconds is an eternity, a confession without words, guilt broadcast live to the nation. Finally, Patel attempted a response, his voice noticeably strained. Senator, evidence management involves complex procedures across multiple facilities, and I would need to review the specific circumstances before providing detailed commentary. You would need to review the circumstances? Booker's voice rose with genuine incredulity. Director, this memo states that you were personally briefed on the missing files on January 16th, one day after they were discovered missing. Are you telling this committee that you don't remember being informed that 73 Epstein investigation files had vanished? Patel looked desperately at his legal team, but they offered no assistance. Senator, there are numerous ongoing reviews of evidence management protocols, and without access to comprehensive documentation, I cannot make specific assertions about individual cases. Booker pulled out a second document, this one bearing an even more official seal. Let me help clarify your memory, Director. This is the minutes from an FBI executive meeting held on January 17, 2025. Present at this meeting were you, Deputy Director Sarah Chen, Evidence Management Division Chief Rebecca Martinez, and General Counsel David Hartwell. He began reading again, his voice cutting through the committee room's tension like a blade. Quote, Director Patel was briefed on the 73 missing Epstein files. When asked about recovery efforts, Director Patel stated that these particular files may have been archived according to standard protocols and that their current location would require extensive review. When pressed by Division Chief Martinez about the unusual nature of the disappearance, Director Patel stated that some files related to closed investigations may have been processed differently due to their sensitive nature. Booker looked up, his eyes locked on Patel's increasingly pale face. Sensitive nature, Director? These files documented crimes against children. They contained evidence of trafficking, sexual assault, and conspiracy. What exactly was so sensitive that they needed to be processed differently? The trap was complete and inescapable. Patel sat frozen, his face glistening with visible perspiration, his hands now clasped together to control their trembling. Senator, I may have been briefed on various evidence management issues, but the specific details of individual file locations are handled by specialized personnel through established protocols. Established protocols, Booker repeated, his voice dripping with disdain. Let me read you what your own evidence management chief wrote about these established protocols. He pulled out a third document. Quote, the disappearance of these 73 files is unprecedented in FBI history. Our tracking systems show no record of authorized removal, no documentation of transfer, and no indication of standard archival processing. These files appear to have been deliberately removed from our evidence storage without following any established protocol. The committee room erupted. Journalists were typing frantically, committee members were exchanging shocked glances, and camera operators were zooming in on Patel's increasingly distressed face. Deliberately removed, Booker continued, his voice now carrying absolute moral authority. Director Patel, your own evidence management chief, determined that 73 files crucial to holding Epstein associates accountable were deliberately removed from FBI storage. So I am going to ask you directly, who ordered the removal of these files? At 10:42 a.m., exactly 28 minutes into Booker's questioning, Kash Patel made the decision that would define the rest of his career. Instead of answering the question, instead of providing any explanation, he simply sat there in complete silence. Senator, I cannot discuss specific investigative materials or evidence management decisions in an open session due to classification concerns and ongoing legal considerations, he finally managed, his voice barely audible. Classification concerns? Booker's voice thundered through the chamber. Director, these files documented crimes against American children. They contained evidence of trafficking and sexual exploitation. What classification level is higher than protecting children from predators? Patel had no answer. For the third time in the hearing, he simply sat in silence, his career crumbling with each passing second of his inability to respond. But Booker wasn't finished. He pulled out one final document, and this one changed everything. Director Patel, do you recognize this email address? kpatel@fbiwoprotonmail.com. The color completely drained from Patel's face. His mouth opened and closed like he was gasping for air, but no sound emerged. This is an email sent from that address to an encrypted account on December 28, 2024, 3 days before the files went missing. The subject line reads, "Files ready for processing." The message contains a list of 73 file numbers that exactly match the missing Epstein evidence files. The chamber erupted in chaos. Senators were demanding order, journalists were shouting questions, and Patel sat motionless, unable to respond to the accusation that he had personally coordinated the disappearance of critical evidence. Director Booker said quietly, his voice cutting through the noise, I am going to ask you one final time, and I want you to look at the cameras when you answer because the families of Epstein's victims are watching. Did you personally order the removal of 73 evidence files to protect powerful people who should have been prosecuted? Silence. Complete, damning, career-ending silence. Within minutes, video clips of Patel's refusal to answer went viral. Legal experts called it the most damaging congressional testimony in FBI history. News networks interrupted programming, and somewhere, 73 pieces of evidence that could have brought justice to Epstein's victims remained hidden, protected by the very agency sworn to seek justice. The hearing continued for another hour, but nothing else mattered. Cory Booker had asked the questions that exposed the cover-up, and Kash Patel's silence had provided all the answers America needed to hear.